relationships are worth it, don't be afraid of the difficult conversations.
Right. Because the feelings that you get that cause you to want to sit down and have that conversation, 99% of the time, those feelings don't just go away.
Right.
They might get less, but the next time they come back, they will fester bigger. So they really need to be dealt with.
And that might be a test. You know, you can say, is this just me, or am I having a bad day?
Completely.
But you'll see if it's recurring inside you, and listen to yourself. Look deep inside yourself. Where do I feel this? How do I feel this? Can I transmute it? And if not, you know, for the sake of the relationship, it's worth it. But it's scary. And I can say that I initiated one of these conversations.
Yeah.
And I will share that I was very scared to do so.
Welcome to the EnVibe Life Podcast with Amy Parker and Cheryl Dunn. By tuning in, you are joining a community that will inspire you to increase balance, wellness, and joy in your life. We'll offer expert information and insightful conversations to help us all on our journey to live more in vibe. For more information and articles, remember to also check out our website at EnVibeLife.com. That's EnVibeLife.com. And we're grateful that you're here.
Hello, and welcome to the EnVibe Life Podcast. You are here with Amy Parker and Cheryl Dunn. We're so grateful you have joined us this week. We wanted to answer some of the questions we've been getting this week, or the main question we've been getting since we first launched EnVibe Life. A few months ago, we went public.
Almost six, not quite, but
March,
almost.
so about 3 or 4 months ago. The main question we get asked, to my shock, I don't know about you, is about ourselves. People want to know about us individually, and mostly about our relationship and how we know each other, how long we've known each other, how that relationship came to be, how EnVibe Life started. And so we just wanted to share a little bit of that now. You want to start, Cheryl?
Yeah. Amy and I have known each other for, I think we figured out it's almost been about 10 years.
I think it is 10 years now.
About 10 years. And you guys that have been listening to us, you know that my husband and I own a physical therapy clinic / Pilates and gyrotonic studio. Amy did come as a patient originally, and then she started working with me on the fitness side. And when you work one-on-one with someone every week for a minimum of an hour.
And it was a lot more at first.
Yeah,
too.
It was a lot more than once a week. You know, you get to know people really well, and you feel comfortable. Now, this doesn't happen with every relationship, but for the most part, you get to be comfortable with them. You learn to share. You feel their energy, you know their vibe, and some people you just click really well with. Amy and I, over that time, shared a lot of our lives.
From the beginning.
Yeah.
You know, it was really easy.
It was easy.
Very early.
We had a common ground that we both talked about, a common moral concept, I would say, that we both held ourselves to.
So we valued each other's advice and opinion instantly. From the beginning. Instantly. Even if it was just about, oh, you won't believe this meeting I just had and how it went. I'm not you saying a meeting at work, but I just got out of a teacher conference or had this whatever and was so frustrated and you talked me off the cliff or whatever it would be.
We were sounding boards.
We were, yeah.
And you know, first of all, I think we were great listeners for each other. And then if you felt like you had some advice, you gave it. And it was usually good and taken. I felt it worked really well. And then I think Amy and I started to have this urge to do more.
We both at the same time started working a lot on personal growth and development.
Yes.
I'd say that was maybe 5 years ago.
Yeah. That was even before what I was just saying, the do more. We really were going down that path of personal work.
Yeah, a lot of personal work towards, hey, you need to read this. Now you need to listen to this. You need to meet this person. Just going back and forth constantly. And also sharing a lot with each other. And having similar backgrounds, but then different perspectives, I feel like we helped each other along, but then said, but also think about this.
Yes.
And that was helpful.
Helped us see both other sides that we might not be seeing.
And it all helped us individually to start seeing big shifts in our life. And I think some of the biggest shifts were just kind of, at least for me, letting go of some things.
Yeah.
And realizing, kind of getting to my true, authentic self, nature, core, seeing what is important, what's less important maybe, and really working towards a greater sense of inner peace and joy and, I don't know, just a higher purpose. I don't know.
I think from my perspective, when we were Amy and I were at this phase of every week, we couldn't wait till that appointment because we had so much to share, to ask, to show, to, it was exciting because we were both really learning a whole lot at that time. And we still really share a lot with each other when we get a great book or a great podcast, or we share it with each other because that's our it feeds our souls, and it's I don't know, it's great, it's awesome. But at that point also, like, I think from my perspective, I was really just waking up to realizing that personal growth really existed. I mean, I'd always done it on a level of being able, things that you could see, like worked harder to know more about what I did, studied with different people, made sure the business was working at its full potential. How could we grow the business? How, that kind of stuff. I had always worked on that. How, what can I do for my children? What can I do for my marriage? What can I do for the relationships here at the office? I always was working on those things and never looking inside, not that it just wasn't doing that. And I don't know why. It's not that I thought I didn't need it, but I just didn't realize that there was such a wealth of information out there. And, things happened into my life that triggered me to really go deeper and explore. And that's when Amy and I started really throwing information back and forth at each other. And it was such a time of growth that it was
exciting.
It was super exciting.
It was a crazy blitz of time, which was what I'm describing as blitz might have been 2 years.
2 years, yeah.
But we just both started feeling ourselves change by leaps and bounds. And looking at our life just a little differently. And in a way we felt like others could benefit from as well. And now at a similar time to this, I decided to go through a teacher training with you. Pilates teacher training with you. Mm-hmm. So even though Cheryl had always been this very faith-filled woman and spiritual person, like she said, she didn't maybe dive as deep into herself for some answers.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Where I had always kind of been that person, but was going even more. Yeah. Mm-hmm. But I didn't see as much the physical connection to all of that. Like how your body fit into mind, body, soul as much. And Cheryl really opened my eyes
but
to
the
that.
Soul part.
Yeah.
You helped me find the soul part.
And I think we had just those ahas at the same moment on that. And then when I started going through that teacher training, that took us even to another level of, oh my goodness, look how this is all really tied together. And if you can sort of balance it all together, you can really start to make some beneficial and positive changes in your life, even if it's just in your perspective and your observation. So we started talking at least 2 years ago, maybe more, about what can we do? We want to do something with it. We want it to go be the conversations we had. And that's why we call this podcast, or we say Conversations with Amy Parker and Cheryl Dunn, because our conversations were so important to us in our development individually. And we were doing it together, but it was really individual growth that was happening. And we were just helping each other get there. And so we said, could we take what we're doing and offer it to others? And we went through a million ideas. We can open a wellness center. We can hold retreats. And we may still do all of that. I don't know. It was a little over a year ago, I started developing the idea for what you see, or close to what you see now, a digital platform.
Yes.
For EnVibe Life. And, you know, as Kismet would, of course, have it, as I'm taking notes and starting to brainstorm about it, I go in one week to see Cheryl, and she says, hey, guess what? I think I'm going to start hosting a podcast. And I said, hey, guess what? I think I'm going to do an online company.
And then we just, together.
I mean, within a week, we're like, oh my gosh, this needs to happen together. Here's the idea. This is what we need to be doing.
Yeah.
And I'd say the way you would see EnVibe Life today when you log on, and we have tons of dreams and plans and goals for it, but it's very close to what we were hoping it would be, to offer conversations that we have, bring in experts that we think you will find useful, have an online repository of information, our website to be, you know, with articles. Sometimes it's something we write or that other people, again, who are experts in their fields write, or even maybe sending you to places of, hey, we think this is super cool, check it out. Whether it's a book or another website or whatever, to share with our audience the same things we were sharing with each other. All those times we'd be constantly texting, hey, listen to this podcast or read this book or whatever. We want to bring that out to others.
That's definitely, we got so much benefit out of it. We decided we had to share it with everybody. And by having this digital platform, we realized we could reach a ton of people way beyond the four doors that I was working within, you know? And so that's why here we are, EnVibe Life.
Right.
You know,
so the idea for the digital platform happened way before COVID.
Right.
But we jumped in with both feet in the middle of it.
Yes.
Which
COVID happened.
Like a good idea at the time, and probably was. I don't know. I mean, we were set to launch, I think, at the middle of March, beginning of April.
Yes.
That was our goal from like the first quarter of the year, when we were kind of realistically saying, okay, we can have this done by then, and the website bugs worked out by then. When can we get it going? It was essentially right when the work from home orders and I'm calling it lockdowns, but it was really stay at home or work from home orders started happening. And so we looked at each other and said, does this mean we should shelf the idea? And what we decided is, no, we need to, we feel so strongly about this. We need to do it despite COVID. And now I think as we've gone more and more, I think our conversations are coming to COVID now. I mean, we saw the need for it far before we knew there would be a thing called COVID. But this seems like a time when a lot of people, first of all, are doing a lot of self-reflection and looking at their lives and prioritizing and reprioritizing. And also one of the main ways you can do that now is digitally.
Yes, exactly.
Those wellness centers and spas and retreats,
they're all offering virtual options.
Yeah, well, and a lot of them aren't open or not allowing in person. So anyway, we're so happy that you found us, however you found us, and that you're here. But, you know, there's more to talk about too. I mean, that's the basis of the relationship and what the relationship is. And then we want to kind of get real with everyone in a very EnVibe sort of way. Because, you know, something we say over and over, but we just kind of want to show you we really mean it, is we're still doing the work too. We're not really talking from a place of authority. We're talking from a place of we're learning as we go. And we want to share with you what we learn as we do.
And we're talking from a place of exploration.
Yeah.
We're exploring everything that we're guiding you towards. We're exploring it and learning along the way. And so that we hope that our journey inspires you or has you ask deeper questions.
Or makes you feel you're not in it alone.
Yeah, completely.
We're all in it together. And, you know, that's happened with us. We have this long friendship and relationship. And so we have a great friendship that has now turned into a business partnership, which is a really different
different dynamic.
It's a different thing. And for any of you who have business partners at all, or even just coworkers, probably, you know, that those relationships can be really difficult and challenging. And especially taking our relationship from what it was for 10 years into now something totally different has meant that we've had some bumps in the road and some things arise. And also, we took something from an idea phase into a reality phase with EnVibe Life, which is another major change when you're going to hit some struggles and bumps in the road.
Definitely. But we've managed to work through those, and that's one of the things we want to share.
Yeah, we kind of want to share how we've done that a little bit.
How we went through that and came out on the other side successful and happy and still working together. And so eventually we're going to have an article out that kind of follows up with this podcast too. We'll link it to.
Yeah, it may be out before the podcast comes out. So you may be able to go read it already. We hope. We're working on it. But the main thing is, as we were getting more into the nitty gritty of, all right, we're running a business now, things, there was some friction that arose between us. And we had
as to be expected with any partnership.
And so that's the first thing. I mean, there's so many things out there. And, there are different kinds of partnerships and different kinds of friendship. We say this is like a second marriage for us in a way. That's what, we joke about, but it's kind of true.
But it is.
We're legally tied together. We're emotionally tied together. And
we see each other a lot.
Right. And so, we knew that, and I think it was happening a little from both sides. So we can say it like that. We were having to, define our roles and our tasks and who's doing what and how is that happening? What is the vision? All right, here's the vision. Now that it's going into reality, what exactly does that look like? And what does it demand of us? And we had a lot of frustration and we had to sit down and have a difficult conversation. Have a very difficult conversation. And so I'd say that's one thing that I'd like to share with everyone. Relationships are worth it. Don't be afraid of the difficult conversations. Right.
Because the feelings that you get that cause you to want to sit down and have that conversation, 99% of the time, those feelings don't just go away.
Right.
They might get less, but the next time they come back, they will fester bigger. So they really need to be dealt with.
And that might be a test. You can say, is this just me or am I having a bad day?
Completely.
But you'll see if it's recurring inside you and listen to yourself. Look deep inside yourself. Where do I feel this? How do I feel this? Can I transmute it? And if not, for the sake of the relationship, it's worth it. But it's scary. And I can say that I initiated one of these conversations. Yeah. And I will share that I was very scared to do so.
I also, when I start to have these sort of feelings you're referring to that you sit back and take notice of, I ask myself, if this exact same thing happened last week, would this have been my same reaction? That is always, I know that question seems vague, but sometimes things bother me that I know last week would not have bothered me. Then I know it's me. Like it's just my state of where I'm in. So maybe I got irritated with Amy this week because she did ABC. Well, last week ABC wouldn't have bothered me, but this week it's bothering me because my children are driving me crazy. Well, that has nothing to do with Amy.
And so we're losing our microphone, so hopefully you can still hear us here. Technical difficulties. But I don't want to diminish what you just said, right? Because there's an even bigger picture to what you just said.
Okay.
I think that go back to what I always say. We're here to learn.
Yeah.
Right? Life is about learning. Our relationships are tools for that too. And you do learn about the other person, but most of all, you learn about yourself.
Completely.
So that is always the point. And so in a partnership, especially if it's got a really deep emotional and spiritual meaning to it, one of the purposes of that relationship is to teach you things about yourself. And so sometimes if what you need to learn about yourself is going deep on something that is difficult, honor that process, or that's a good thing. Just because it looks like this is a difficulty in a relationship is what I'm trying to suggest doesn't mean that it's not a good relationship.
Right.
It might mean the opposite. It might mean that this is an extremely meaningful relationship because look at what it's helping me to learn about myself. And I can say EnVibe Life has already served me in that way. Just the business in general and our relationship and what we're reflecting to each other in our relationship is teaching me a lot about myself.
Well, also, I feel like what I'm learning from this, I apply to other relationships that I value. Other relationships that I value, I've taken the lessons that I've learned from this relationship, and I've taken those lessons and applied them to other relationships so that those are as successful as this one.
Me too.
And
I'm doing that as well. And I think this is a timely conversation because not only, we're all in relationships, but
whether it's friends, spouses, work,
we're in a relationship with ourselves. Don't
true.
deny that one.
Right.
But yeah, it can be from the person you pass on the street every day who sometimes might cut you off and sometimes doesn't, right? It can be the littlest thing. We talk about that barista in the coffee shop.
Right, that's what I was just thinking.
we have relationships at every phase of our life, but especially, our friends and our family and our spouses and our business partners and our coworkers. And I think this is such a timely conversation right now because like we started this conversation saying, this is always true, but right now during COVID and social distancing, I think there's a particular strain being put on relationships. First of all, everyone is stressed. And gosh, that's something we need to address because I'm just hearing so many people saying their anxiety levels are going through the roof.
Yes.
Or someone they know is. And that's just out there. And in both ways, sometimes just anxiety in a very loose term, meaning I'm so stressed out, and sometimes actual clinical anxiety that needs professional help. And God, please can't say it enough. Go seek the professional help if, you need the professional help because it really is out there. And during this time, though, we're not able to be in person with people. And I just think that puts such an extra strain on relationships because so much can be gained when you can really feel someone's energy and presence around you.
You know what else I've discovered, I think, over this is the value of a hug.
Right. Exactly.
And that's something nobody's doing, nobody's getting. We're not giving it, we're not receiving it. Unless it's within your little group, right?
Immediate family.
But there were so many people that I realized, and I'm not a huggy person, right? I'm just not that type of person. But but when I would see a friend that I hadn't seen in a while, I would give them a big hug, and everybody there was a lot of people over COVID that eventually I've kind of seen a little bit because maybe they've come back to the office. I can't hug them. It's just weird. Even though I'm not a huggy person,
So here's the other thing. When you have those difficult conversations in relationships, I know my first choice would always be in person.
Right.
But right now
sometimes
you can't
do that.
In fact, we had a very difficult conversation over
the phone.
Over FaceTime.
Yes.
We did. And, we had to put some real strategies in place for it. It might mean you have to say more.
Right.
Because sometimes when you're in person, it's easy to somehow convey, look, you mean something to me.
Yes.
But when you have that technology between you, it might be more important to actually say
what you're meaning. Also, I think it's more important before you pick up the phone and have it that you set your energy. You set your intention. And then that way, what comes across in your voice and your tone will be in alignment with where your intention is.
Yeah, something I've shared with you just recently, and I think we have it here, is a friend shared with me the Center for Nonviolent Communication and terms of nonviolent communication. And if you can see me, I'm holding up a sheet here, and we'll link that because even that, to prepare yourself for a difficult conversation, to look at, there are certain terms that will come across more compassionately to people in certain terms that might trigger them into a defensive mode.
Totally.
And I know this because I naturally get defensive. So this resonates with me a lot to know that I need to be extra mindful when I'm speaking to honor someone else and try not to trigger them.
Yeah, I think that defensiveness is probably human nature for our very first instinct to be that. And someone had shared with me a great tool to kind of back yourself off that ledge is at that point, if you don't have anything constructive to add or something what you're thinking about adding is might come in the more violent nature, tonal or word choice, then ask a question. Instead of coming back with your rebuttal, ask a question. And your question might just be, can you go deeper on that? Can you explain more? And then that way, as the other person continues to talk, maybe your thoughts get more clear of what you want to say. And then you can calm yourself down to be able to reply back in a constructive way versus a combative way or a defensive way.
I think it's asking an open-ended question.
Totally.
Because you're not backing someone into a corner or putting them on the defensive in that manner.
And I think getting someone, and also then you're making sure that they are clearly getting out everything they want to say and they're not holding back. I think that that's important, that someone, says everything they want to say before you come back with your thoughts or your, communication with it. But I think that's important because, and then you can have the conversation bounce back and forth, but that first person that initiates it, I think they really need to get all their thoughts out clearly.
And sometimes that's the catharsis in and of itself. It's just getting it out.
So that's
allowing someone or giving them the space to do that is, I think, an important, if you're on the receiving end of one of these conversations, just giving someone the space.
Give them the space. And give them the safe space, and that's, as the listener, that's important for your energy as well.
Because remember, for most people, it's very hard to be that vulnerable and put themselves out there like that. So for both of you. But I know for me, it's hard for me to start a conversation or have a conversation like that.
It's very difficult. It's not easy. I've owned a business for almost, 17 years now. And over that time, I've had to let go, fire a couple of people along the way. You want to talk about a difficult thing to do. And that's severing a relationship. But I always want to do it from a place that comes from my heart in a compassionate way, because I don't feel like because you let someone go that you have to sever a friendship. I mean, depending on the circumstances of which you've let someone go, but that's definitely a difficult conversation. And the first few years into that, I would make myself nauseous, avoiding it, not wanting to do it. Then they would last longer as an employee, which would fester amongst the whole staff. When someone needs to go, everybody feels it, and it becomes this, what's the word I'm looking for? It's like a toxic environment that begins to happen when someone isn't meant to be there anymore, and it's my responsibility as the leader to let them go.
Yeah.
That is a hard
It's hard
thing
being
to
a
do.
leader.
It's
so
hard.
You leaders out there.
Yeah, that's a tough one to let people go. And
value and honor yourself, you leaders out there. It's hard to take a stand sometimes or do the thing that's uncomfortable to do.
So I have to fess up. When Amy came to me, because she initiated the conversation that we're kind of referring to that was difficult, me being the receiver was kind of like, it's way easier to be the receiver than it was for you to initiate
That's
it.
probably
It was
true.
much harder for you to initiate it. For me to sit and listen and take it in and process it was way easier. I mean, it was kind of like, okay.
And so there are a couple different things I wanted to hear. First thing I want to say is it was a successful
Yes.
The friction we had to work through was successful, and we have moved past and moved forward and moved ahead, and we would not be in the same place we are if we hadn't had the conversation.
No.
It's been a huge benefit to our relationship and to EnVibe Life to have had that. That ended up being a series of conversations, but those conversations, I think. And so there's a silver lining, and it can work out, and,
I think things are better because of it.
Right, I do too.
Yeah.
But so this leads me to what I was going to say. The other thing I was going to say, because when you were talking about having to sever a business relationship, the thing I thought was, okay, but what when it's not a business relationship?
Yeah.
What about when it's a personal relationship or even a family relationship? I know
reality.
I had someone, tell me once, not every member of our biological family is that healthy for us to be around. And that can be extremely difficult.
Yes.
So let's talk about that a little bit. The first thing I want to say about that is you can still love someone even if you have to set up boundaries.
Yes.
A boundary does not mean turning off love. In fact, I think some of the people in my life I've had the most friction with are the people that to this day I pray for the most. I wish for their happiness the most, and I try to send the most love to. And because I feel like there's something in our relationship that needs it. So even if we don't see each other very often, and I have a couple of people like that in my life, even if we don't see each other very often, I don't love them less.
Right.
Because of it. And I try to always remember that. Just because something about our personalities isn't healthy or is toxic.
Right.
And, whether they feel that same love for me or not is their choice to make. But I know that I feel like I need to pour more love, even though they never know it. So that's put your ego aside. Maybe might be tip number one, because you can be doing things from a place of love and kindness that they never know about. And that's okay. That's okay too.
Yeah. And good, severing those type of relationships probably is more challenging, I think, than a business relationship. Maybe. Not ours.
I mean, there are,
different
it's
levels.
all complicated.
It's all complicated.
These are hard things, and it's why they're so important.
They're so important.
If they weren't,
that's why communication is so important.
If they weren't important, it wouldn't be as difficult.
And I think that's like you were talking about, loving someone. When you do love someone and you have to have a difficult conversation, that makes it harder. Because love is a complex feeling that goes deep, and it makes things hurt more on the receiving end. If there's something that's upset you or hurt you, it hurts you more if you love that person than if some Joe Blow off the street did something to you that you don't know.
And gosh, I haven't looked at this in so long, so I'm about to talk totally. I'm probably going to mess up everything I say, but I'm thinking about that book and that philosophy about there being different love languages.
Oh, right. I never read that book.
I can't remember the author of it, so we'll come up with it and link it in the show notes.
Yes.
But the concept or the principle is everyone does show love differently. And
and receives it differently.
Yes. And wants it. Everyone wants it differently, and everyone has the natural ability to show it differently. And so just because you're not getting what you most want doesn't mean that the other person doesn't love you either. And so love can take a lot of different forms, and that in and of itself can be a learning point in a relationship on how you give love, how you receive love, how you wish it were, how it really is, and finding the common ground and middle ground there. And I think that's true in a business relationship or a personal relationship.
Yes. Yes. Because that's one of the things I think through Amy and mine, our self-exploration in this business relationship is, I'm also in a business relationship with my husband, but it works very different than this business relationship I'm in with Amy. And that is a growing process for me to have there are different needs that need to be met from Stephen versus Amy, and that's something that through our conflict I learned, and therefore I can deliver at a different level or a different expectation from what Amy has versus what Stephen's expectations are.
And I'm just thinking every one of our friendships is different. Every one of our children needs different things. Every one of our parents needs different things. And so I think that's true.
Yeah.
No matter where the relationship is.
It's interesting. Yeah. I hadn't thought of that, but it's so right, you know. What one person needs, you know, maybe somebody needs you to call them every week and somebody else doesn't.
Or it annoys somebody else.
Right.
Yeah.
Definitely. It's very interesting. It's complex and dynamic, and I'm just blessed that we were able to go through some conflict and come out on the other side. And
we're both very grateful.
Yes.
And grateful for EnVibe Life and excited about what it could offer. And want you all to know where it's coming from as you join our community.
Yes. That we take these tools and we use them. And, you know, like we said earlier, we don't claim to be professionals on everything that we talk about, but we hope to like spark the conversation or maybe guide you to different professionals that kind of
or maybe
help.
One little thing we say might sparks an interest or an inspiration that would make me happy to hear that.
Definitely.
So by the way, we'd love for you to comment and tell us some of these things or what you might like to hear more of or other questions you might want to ask us or anything like that too.
Right. Definitely. So that we can answer what you want to hear. You know, that's how this podcast came about, was people were asking, you know, how did this relationship start? And so that's how it started. You know, it started with client, friends, that spark of interest of wanting to do something for a community greater than ourselves. And then we came up with EnVibe Life. EnVibe Life, for the most part, it's been pretty easy.
Yeah,
you know?
It's been a lot of fun.
It's been a lot of fun, and it is a lot of fun, and we still enjoy it. But we also want you to know it's a real relationship. Like, it can seem like, oh, all's hunky dory, but you know, it's a real relationship, and that's where we came across and came up with where this conversation led to was the conflict and how we dealt with that and how we came across it and came out on the other side better than we were before.
And I'll just say that, to add one more thing that we should have said earlier, I think we started some of our conversations was, I want you to know how worth it this relationship is to me.
I think that is a key on how you start a difficult conversation because it's already established the end.
Right.
You know, and from that knowingness, that creates a safety. And maybe because you started our conversation that way, it did make it very easy for me to hear anything else you had to say, because that was a safety net that I knew would be at the end.
But it's also important that I think exactly what you're saying, we're not Pollyannas either, even though we say we love fun and joy and aspire for it. No, I mean, we have dark times and we help each other through it, and we've had some dark times together as a unit. And I think we've learned from it, like, you know, conflict is there to teach us something, and it did. Yeah. And so the conflict was worth it too.
It was worth it.
What it taught us.
And I think one of the biggest takeaways is when conflict comes up in your life, ask yourself, what can I learn from this? What can I do to improve this? Why is this bothering me? Why? And it's interesting. There was a situation that was happening that every time we went to this certain event, I would leave like, just not feeling good. And then when Amy and I were going through our self-exploration, the next time we had to go to this event, I set a clear intention that I was going to pass love on to everyone there, and I was going to enjoy it, and it was going to be fun. And I was saying that deep in my heart, like, I'm going to enjoy this. This is going to be a loving, awesome thing. And guess what? It was, you know, and it hadn't been for many years. And so it was kind of nice to see that you can set a clear intention that something, you know, on the other side comes out good.
And it's amazing how big those little things are.
They're huge.
In adding to your life and your overall happiness, I think.
Definitely. So I don't know why I came up with that conversation, what made me think that, but I'm like, why did I say that one? Because I don't know where we were going with it. But anyway.
Well, just even one relationship can have tentacles that spread out into other parts of your life. And so just trust, let it happen, and listen to the voice inside and listen to your heart on
Definitely.
that. Mm-hmm. So thank you. Yeah.
Thanks for listening, and hopefully this helps answer some questions. And
check out in the show notes and see some of the articles we referenced, and anything else we can think to put in. We'll do that as well if we think it might be helpful. So It's been fun today, even though it was a little bit difficult to open up like this. But thank you guys so much for listening.
Yeah. And comment, subscribe, like anything that if you're watching us on YouTube or you're listening to us on where you listen to your podcasts, make comments and let us know what you want to hear next, because that's what we're here to do, is provide the information that you want. So thanks for listening.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to the EnVibe Life Podcast. For more information and to join our community, be sure and check out our website at www.envibelife.com. We look forward to sharing with you.